Major controversy being covered up by legacy media, surprise, surprise, regarding New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and their state's COVID-19 nursing home numbers. Listen to Cuomo put his foot further down his mouth as he tries to respond. Here we go.
Look, whether a person died in a hospital or died in a nursing home, it's the people died. People died. I was in a hospital, I got transferred to a nursing home, and my father died. My father was in a nursing home, got transferred to a hospital, my father died. Who cares? 33, 28, died in a hospital, died in a nursing home. They died.
Who cares? Who cares? I'm pretty certain that the surviving families of those nursing home patients who died, take a listen to the voices of one of your own citizens who were affected by your policy.
I'm here today to bear witness on behalf of my mother, Luz Maria Rocha Maldonado, who would have celebrated her 82nd birthday today, but whose life was cut short due to a series of reckless public policy decisions. The COVID crisis in New York's nursing homes was a preventable crisis. It was fueled by poor public policy decisions, like the Department of Health's March 25th directive. In a cruel twist of fate, while healthy families like mine were locked out of nursing homes and forced to stay away from our loved ones, my mom was locked into a facility with COVID-positive patients released from a hospital. Worse yet, despite the governor's daily press briefings, families like mine were kept in the dark about this important policy change and actively misled by nursing home officials. It was only after my mom developed her first COVID symptoms that I confronted the director of nursing, and he finally admitted to me that, in quote, his words, he had been forced to admit COVID patients into the facility by the state, and that he could not guarantee that my mom had not been exposed to COVID. I was apoplectic.
By the way, by subscribing to this channel, you are supporting we the people and the independent voices in order to have a voice countering legacy media, the propaganda, as well as big tech censorship. So please smash that subscribe button. Hit the like button as well, and please want to encourage you to also comment on this video in order to fight the algorithm that is suppressing alternative information that counters the official narrative that's trying to be pushed out there. So again, please subscribe to this channel if you are watching and you have not subscribed. So what happened is that New York's Attorney General, I believe is Tish James, if I'm not mistaken, released a reporting claiming that the Health Commissioner, Howard Zucker, and Governor Andrew Cuomo's administration have been underreporting the numbers of nursing home deaths related to COVID-19 by as much as 50%. While it hasn't affected the total number of deaths, but here's why it matters. On March the 25th, 2020, Governor Cuomo, along with neighboring states, Governor Tom Wolf of Pennsylvania, Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey, all signed executive orders mandating that their state's nursing homes take in COVID-19 positive patients. Fast forward several months, and as many as 88% of all of Pennsylvania's COVID-19 related deaths were all in nursing homes. 88% of all Pennsylvania deaths were in their nursing homes after the mandate. As many as 56% of all New Jersey COVID-related deaths at one point during the pandemic, which, by the way, is the highest number of nursing home deaths per capita in the entire country, if I'm not mistaken, in the entire world. And then around the same time, initially, you had New York, which only sat at about 30%, maybe even less during the pandemic, which actually surprised me as I was following the story, because he was all part of the cabal of those three neighboring tri-states there regarding the executive order mandating their nursing homes take in COVID-19 patients. And yet New York had one of the lowest, under 30%, a big contrast to his neighbors. Not even states that are far apart, but his neighbors, big contrast. And you even had Governor Cuomo go this big media tour where he was comparing himself to, his COVID-19 nursing home deaths to other states and bragging. Take a listen.
We actually have a lower percentage of people who died in nursing homes. They want to point fingers Not at New York. We're number 46. You have 45 other states to point fingers at first. In New York State, when you look at the percentage of deaths in nursing homes, we're 46 out of 50 states. 46 out of 50 states. So by percentage, our loss was much, much less than other states. If you look at how many people died in New York nursing homes, New York is number 46 out of 50 states in the percentage of deaths in nursing homes.
So the reason New York was able to say that they had a much lower percentage of nursing home deaths was in part because they suppressed the numbers. Here's why it's significant where the deaths occurred. Because Cuomo, you signed an executive order that may have actually directly brought in the disease into the facilities of your most vulnerable population. You can't blame the federal government for your state mandate that you yourself signed. How many of those nursing homes saw a spike in infections because of the months that you ordered that they take COVID-19 positive patients? And he'll try to spin it, and as he already has, to say we didn't violate any rules. We were following the federal guidelines, and not saying that they had to take positive patients. They just couldn't discriminate. BS. And you do have Representative Elise Stefanik, if I'm pronouncing that right, of New York, who is calling for a federal investigation into New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's administration. Hopefully it'll reveal why the Commissioner Zucker underreported the nursing home deaths. Was it to protect Cuomo from criticism for his executive order? Was he acting alone, or was it part of marching orders from above from Cuomo's office? And how liable is Governor Andrew Cuomo in the COVID-19 outbreak in his state's long-term care facilities due to his executive order, which again, I'll restate this over and over again. He forced these facilities to take in patients who tested positive for COVID-19. So pay attention, y'all, to what's really going on. Research your city, county, and state laws, what legislature and governors are trying to pass, and laws and or orders that have been passed, and see how it's really affecting you and the place and where you live. Don't rely on legacy media or social media to tell you who to really be angry with, because they're all biased. Over 86% of all journalists, whether you're talking about the newspaper, magazine writers, as well as on-screen news anchors, are all registered Democrat. Not to say there's something better about conservative, those who register conservative, but you don't register Democrat unless if that's the party you really affiliate with, whose talking points you agree, and whose politicians you probably want to protect. And it's no coincidence that 90% of all media coverage of Republican candidates is usually always negative, whereas you have Democratic politicians who get all of this positive praise. Cuomo, for instance, big example, where he was touted as an example of what leadership should look like during this pandemic. They even gave him an Emmy for his news briefings, said that this is the model of leadership during a pandemic we need, fact-based in education, educating the masses and the people. A big contrast to President Trump. That's how they touted it. And yet, while they were touting that, all of the press conferences he did, his executive order, again, may have led to as many as half of the deaths in his state, which is the largest by far in the country, again, covering up. So you cannot really rely on legacy media. They will do a bias. And if they do talk about it, by the way, like CNN did report on this to some extent, they will bury it so deep. Yeah, they'll talk about it to cover their butts and say, yes, we talked about it. We are a journalistic organization. But the newspapers and magazines will bury it so deep in their papers and or magazines that you'll never get to it, especially for those who are only headline readers. And then for those, whether it's network news or cable news, MSNBC, CNN, as an example, yeah, they may spend a few minutes covering it, on average 2 to 4 minutes across all of the networks, all the while spending hours talking about everything else, like the insurrection, Trump extremists, traitors, and or GOP senators and or congressmen to which they disagree with, like Senator Ted Cruz. They'll spend hours talking about that so that after you watch the program, the only thing that you really remember was the negative coverage on the other party. So you cannot rely on legacy media. You have to rely on your own research as well as trying to seek out independent voices while you can during this big censorship purge of alternative voices, regardless of whether or not if they identify as conservative or libertarians, because they're all being lumped into one category now, apparently, that needs to be silenced or censored according to CNN, which is actually now jealous of any alternative voices other than their own, possibly having an influence on the people. So that's all I have to say right now regarding Governor Andrew Cuomo. Again, really educate yourself, because I do find it problematic that this guy had the nerve to write a book during a pandemic about what leadership looks like and how great he was doing. The fact that his approval rating is at 47% right now, which is way too high given the truth about these controversies that is being covered up by the media. So this is Bruce the Boss Brooks. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Support the channel, support independent voices. Again, in this age of mass media censorship, if you are already subscribed to the channel, don't forget to like this video, share this video, comment on this video. I want to hear your thoughts on what's going on in this particular controversy, as well as media bias as it pertains to coverage of COVID handling or just anything in general. And I will try my best to respond. This is Bruce the Boss Brooks, and I'm out. Peace.